Can like Tay or somebody else pick it? You guys can like Tay or
You said what?
somebody else pick it.
I hear
Oh,
something.
I hear you guys can like Tay.
Welcome everybody to Around the Shroom, the regular season wrap up. I'm Dawson, here with my co-host.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan. I'm excited to be here. Excited for this postseason that we have coming forward. We finally made it after a long and you know tedious season. A lot of big moments, a lot of surprising upsets, but here we are at the postseason. So excited to talk about our upcoming matchups and what happened during the regular season. So Dawson, if you want to kick us off with our first session.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the regular season wrapped up, we have some clear winners and clear losers here for our top six teams that are going to be making the postseason. We have Fury, who clinched the winner of the Western Conference with a perfect 10-0 record with a 67 run differential, beating out the next highest team by that's 53 points. So, really far and away the best team in the league here. And then that looks at the number two overall seed, the Northeast Sub Conference, the Royals, sitting at a 7-3 record, the next best record with a 14 run differential. Very clearly the next best team in the league as of right now, both securing buys, coveted buys, as we head into the postseason. And on the other side, the flip side, we have the two teams that have been eliminated for the Emerald Havoc and the Mushroom Cloud. Mushroom Cloud sitting at an 0-10, minus 53 run differential, but they do secure the number one draft lottery odds with a 40%, and Emerald Havoc securing 30% with a 3-7 record and a minus 15 run differential. Tough records for those bottom teams as they struggled. Emerald Havoc, as it came down to the very last game against the Wigglers in a one-run game, and the very last play that pushed the Wigglers over the edge. But they were just right there in the thick of it. So there's an opportunity for them to be able to bounce back next season. But for the four teams that are going to be competing today, that's going to be Slug and Heat sitting at 6-4 in the 3 seed, taking on Pipe Dream 4-6, a conference matchup in the Western Conference. With both of them, I would say a pseudo rivalry, is they're not the two rivals, but a team that they were clearly the two most competitive teams. They provided the most competitive games in the Western Conference. And then the other two, Warp Zone Warriors and Warriors Wigglers, both 5-5. Another opportunity for two teams that are on paper pretty similar, both with a lot of highs and lows, with the Wigglers rounding out a pretty good end of their season, where the Warriors on downward trajectory as they finished off the season. But overall, I mean, there's still tons to play for these last six teams in the postseason, as these wildcard teams are either going to be falling to the lottery or making their way to the semifinals, and it's only one game to decide it. So it's been a really interesting season, our inaugural season. I know that there's a lot that has been learned. There's a lot that people are going to be taking away and taking into next season as we really try to see somebody catch up with Fury, who far and away has really run away with the conference and run away with the league. What do you think as we take a look at how this season went and what the postseason has in store for us?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what we get out of these games. As you talked about with these play-ins, we have a couple of conference matchups. Teams that have played each other and played each other close. Um, so I'm excited for these play-ins. I think the entire postseason is going to be full of just these close, tight games. But I would also not be surprised if we have an upset here or there. Pipe Dream finish off the season strong. Unfortunately, they lost to Fury in the last game pretty badly, but finished with a lot of hopes and a lot of good things to come out of it, and taking that into the postseason game here tonight against Slug and Heat, who Slug and Heat once again had a very good end of season. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they finished out 4-3, or sorry, not 4-3, 3-1 in the last four games. So coming on hot into the postseason, and excited to see if they can keep that streak going and keep that momentum up. Um, on the other side, we have the Royals who uh, or I'm sorry, the Wigglers, who kind of a frustrating season for them, who had a lot of hopes and dreams coming in, and they just struggled a little bit against some of the tougher teams. They clearly showed some struggles at the plate, hitting. Defensively, though, they are pretty strong, pretty solid team. But they play the Warriors tonight, who like you said, very similar teams, but pack a little bit more chemistry and a little bit more power to the lineup. I know that the Warriors have been struggling to figure out who they're going to put out there in the outfield, and which players to start in the batting lineup. So curious to see what they bring forward tonight and who they plan to start.
Absolutely. But as we look at the teams competing tonight and just overall our award winners, we're starting to see the awards trickle in. They haven't been announced completely. I know we're still waiting on one or two more awards for that vote to end up coming to a conclusion. I know the best executive of the season won't be awarded until after the postseason is over. But we could definitely talk about those all stars and some of those weekly MVPs that'll be playing today. Funky Kong from the Warp Zone Warriors, Donkey Kong winning the Week 5 uh, weekly MVP, and you also have those two are the weekly MVPs, and then some other all stars and PD, Funky Kong as mentioned. Also going to see Spivey, Dixie Kong, Brown Critter, Diddy Kong, and then on the other side of the Western, you see Daisy, Donkey Kong, as well as Blue Pianta, Red Pianta, and Yellow Kamek here to round it out. So there's plenty of star potential here, star players that are going to really change how each of these games go, the dynamics of each game. But I think it's going to make for some really exciting offensive play that we've been hoping to see, especially at the end of this season.
Yeah, you bring up the all stars. I'm excited to see these guys just get out there and shine. They're probably going to take it a little bit easier tonight, as most of them have a playoff game right after that. So um, I wouldn't expect a whole lot of crazy dives or crazy plays out of the players. But like you said, offensively, I think it's going to be a very fun, just hitter friendly game. Just really giving everybody a moment to shine out there. So excited to see what these all stars can do, and more importantly, I'm excited for these all star announcers. James and Dawson in the booth. They've been doing just so well all season together, just feeding off of each other's energy and just working well in the booth, talking about the game, talking about just bringing in the community. So I'm excited to see how well they do, and excited to hear them tonight again.
Yeah, I mean, James has ended up winning. Apologize. James ended up winning Best Commentator in a pretty wide margin, and it totally deserved. He brings a level of energy and passion into these games that you really gets you invested and excited to watch these games. Really enhances the overall viewing performance. So, an absolutely deserved award. And seeing Dawson paired next to him, being able to keep things running as well. I think this is going to be a great All Star game here. Something that's interesting with this All Star game is that after all of the smack that was talked between these two conferences, especially from the Northeast Sook Conference, they just were not able to elevate and surpass the Western Conference, with a dead tie being 8-8, with both of these conferences really giving it all whenever they ended up playing each other. So complete parity, as no conference was able to step up and take the lead, as some key wins by the Western Conference late ended up keeping that thing tied. So this is an opportunity to show which conference is actually going to be stronger here. I know All-Star game in particular is going to be known for its offense. The defense is not going to be the defense won't be nearly as present as the offense will, with some of the best hitters in the league coming up. So I'm excited to see what that All-Star game brings, but I know a lot of these players are looking ahead of that postseason matchup. I think there's a lot to play for, a lot of pride on the line for a lot of these teams to go see if they can go make the finals and go push Fury or the Royals in the next game.
Yeah, and you talk about it. The next game, I think, is what a lot of these teams are looking at, and just they have to be thinking to themselves, okay, like this is one game, right? The play-ins are one thing, but whenever you get into that semifinals, you're talking about playing two of the toughest teams in the league, and most notably, whichever team is the unfortunate one to end up playing Fury, they're going to have a tall ask there, to be able to beat Fury and take it to the next round. So honestly, I think a lot of these teams they're looking for the next game. They're looking at it and they have to be preparing now. They can't wait until they win this game. So I think there's some approaches by the GMs that could be interesting tonight. Depending on what they say in the locker room, how they approach the game. What have they been training for? Um, because we know that some teams, such as the Warriors, or at least the Warriors and Slug and Heat, they've been considering, what are the chances that these other teams beat us, the 5 and 6 seed beat us. So I think that the approach by each team is going to be interesting tonight. And just I think the fifth and sixth seed, the Wigglers and Pipe Dream, have an advantage in that sense that they're fighting for every moment and could come out and surprise these other two teams.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that I'm looking forward to see how these teams are going to be able to handle it. One of the questions I have for you specifically is these games are longer. These are 9 inning games. These are I mean, not many teams have experience going so deep. You could say that the Warriors saw the tough end of of that stick of that loss because they lost a 12 inning game, the longest game in Dark Horse League Association history to this point. I mean, do you think that they're going to be able to build off of a loss like that and be able to handle that long stamina that it takes to be able to win a game that's longer than normal?
Yeah, I think honestly having that ability to know what to expect that late in the game, know how deep that they have to grind, in order to just take those final moments away from the other team. That's one of the biggest things, biggest advantages that they can play off of. 2 extra innings, it might sound like it's not that much, but for these players out there, as hard as they're running, as hard as they're playing, it is crucial that they keep their stamina up to the end. So I think a big thing is going to be, or a big question for the teams is going to definitely be the pitching, and how they approach that. As we know, some of these pitchers get tired pretty quickly, and some of these teams are struggling in depth on the pitcher side. So I think I think we may see some interesting pitchers come up to the mound tonight, depending on just depending on game time decisions and who they think is the best. So don't be surprised if we get some strange pitching matchups, and if we see some players come up who we haven't seen all season.
Absolutely right. I mean, this is whenever you want to key in on some of those great pitching players that we've seen, the pitching depth. But something I did want to mention as well is that on the other end of whenever you see the Warriors having that such a brutal loss like that, you also look and you see the Warrior the I'm sorry Warriors Wigglers. The Wigglers have a win of a 9 inning game of their own where they gritted it out against Slug and Heat. So that's three of the four teams here have played up to 9 innings in one of the games, with Pipe Dream being the lone team that has not seen extras. So you wonder how that's gonna shape it for this team. For that, so many of these teams have seen the bad side of an extra innings loss, being so close and just not being able to take advantage.
Yeah, I think we'll have some pretty exciting games tonight, and all we can do is just wait till the game time comes and see what the teams decide to do. Um, but with that said, I just want to go over a little bit of the season. Some of the key moments, some of the key games, potentially some of the key players. Which players we think might be. Maybe not necessarily the most valuable in the league as a whole, but the most valuable to each team, right? Starting with that, who do you think, or what team do you, or what game do you think might have been the most crucial in the season, and for which team?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's a lot of games. I mean, we played so many games throughout this season, right? 10 weeks, or 5 weeks, with 8 games each week. So, I mean, you're sitting looking at 40 games throughout the season, and there's just so many key moments where there are highs and lows throughout the season. As teams really trying to figure out exactly where they stood in the league. So, I think there's a lot to like for what we saw in the season, and there's a lot to not like. But as far as what was really key momentum defining games for this season, I mean, I think it's hard to look past the the really. I know it was ended up being a loss, but I think the Havoc, a team that didn't even make the postseason, beating the Warriors in that 12 inning game. I think that really spelled the downward spiral for the Warriors, where they've struggled since. And I think that's such a game that they're going to have to be able to. It gives them a pathway at this point where they're 0-3 in the last three games, where they either have to jump and either change their fate by going and beating a team they've beaten twice this season, or they're going to fall in their face whenever you give the Wigglers even an inch of room to play. The Wigglers, I mean, I just have to point it out. The Wigglers, most of their games have been very close. The Wigglers have won one, two, three, four, five games. Half of their games, all five of the games they've won have been up by one run. You give them even an inch, they will be able. They'll keep it with you, and you give them a chance to win late. The rest of their games they have won by. They've lost all of their other games, and they haven't been close. So if you let them stay hang around in this game, I think this could be a very dangerous game for the Warriors.
Yeah, I agree there that, the Wiggles, they kept it close whenever they needed to. Um, I think one pivotal moment in this season for one team in particular is going to be the Slug and Heat, and that's going to be the win over Pipe Dream in week four. And that win, I think that was a big momentum shifter for them, knowing that all they had to do was just went out and they have that second seed in the Western Conference. So I think that was a pretty pivotal game for them. I think if they lose that game, there's a chance that they don't even make the playoffs. Um, kind of as we saw with the Pipe Dream just struggling. And I think same thing for Pipe Dream. That game was pretty pivotal. As after that loss, they lost the next two. So honestly, I think that that's probably one of the more pivotal games, at least for the Western Conference. And then looking at the North East Soot, I think the biggest thing was the probably the Royals winning over the Wigglers in Week Four, because that essentially solidified the Royals' position as the one seed in the North East Soot. I know it came down to the last week game, but I don't think that many people had concerns about the Royals being able to handle business there. Um, and talking about a little bit of looking at the season, I think Pipe Dream. You talked about the Wigglers. Pipe Dream has also been one of those teams that, except against Fury, has kept it really close against every team that they've played. Um, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Pipe Dream can just keep these games close and just steal a win or something like that from the Slug and Heat. Unfortunately, what that means is that they'll have to go on to play Fury. But um, looking at their season and looking at their ability to keep the games close, I think that they have that same capability as the Wigglers in this case.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, if that's the case, I didn't realize that. I thought they were this format had them playing the Royals regardless. So if that's the case, that's tough. But uh, either way, I mean, I think with the addition of Red Pianta, it's just elevated their team, even though they haven't seen the win since Red Pianta has joined the team more than like the one or two directly after the deadline. I mean, they've just, as a team, I think, have elevated in a way that all of their games are more competitive. Where at the beginning of the season, it just looked like they couldn't stop. Like screen door submarine, those different sayings. But I think watching Red Piazza become one of the most useful players and really one of the most intense players in the league, so focused on winning. It's just been something really good for the entirety of the organization of Pipe Dream. But
Yeah,
talking
he's
about,
been. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to talk about a couple of the other players, especially in these games today, about that are really going to be key for these games. I mean, you see Donkey Kong. Kind of shocking that Donkey Kong didn't end up getting the uh, any Best Offensive Player award nominations, but Donkey Kong has been a true leader of this team, and seeing the way that he elevated at the end of the season, winning the Week Five MVP honors, absolutely is going to be pivotal going in through this postseason. So, I mean, if Donkey Kong, there's been moments where Donkey Kong just keeps getting robbed and is unable to be a producer on offense, and they struggle to win games. Whenever Donkey Kong is producing, Slug and Heat really cannot be stopped. And I think that's really what it comes down to in that Slug and Heat Pipe Dream game is if Pipe Dream could slow Donkey Kong down enough to the point where they could keep it close late. And then looking at the Warriors and Wigglers, I mean, it's kind of crazy to say that the biggest star on the Wigglers hasn't been Petey, and that's incredible to me to be saying that at this point in the season. Petey has been good, but one of the most productive players of that team has been Wiggler. Wiggler himself. Wiggler has really brought something to this Wigglers team that they've absolutely needed. He didn't get any of the awards, not even an All Star, but he's truly one of the unsung heroes of the league. Is he's able to grit it out in two very close games this past week to be able to push them over the edge to get them into the postseason. So I think Wiggler is going to be able to keep that up and take that momentum into this Warriors game. And then the Warriors, I'm just looking at it. It's a team effort. You got to be able to score the runners you have on the board because they get so many batters. I don't think there's a team that puts more base runners on but is unable to score them. So I think this is an opportunity to change those hopes, change those their fortunes that they've had up to this point. So if they can't do that, then this is another chance for a close Wigglers win.
Yeah, you touched on it, but I just want to go back to the Wiggler. I think it took him a while, but I think he finally found his stride late in the season. Kind of the reason why the Wigglers, in my opinion, are in this playoff right now, because honestly, early in the season there were a lot of concerns about it, but about him and his ability to produce, and then I guess he just kept training and flipped a switch and turned it on, and really helped that team secure a playoff bid. Um, and then the Warriors, I like you said, it's a team effort. We saw them in the last week go to a um, Paragoomba look, which is it was a bit of a question from the fans, and I think seeing what we saw, rightly so, as we just saw them kind of fall apart, um, due to the lack of chemistry and pitching that they had. But it seems like they may get ready to try to fix that this week. Um, but we won't know that until we get out there for game time. Um,
Well, from what I understand, is they like the Paragoomba look enough that he stays in the roster. That they're moving Baby DK down and bringing Yellow Pianta in. I know a lot we're talking about getting Yellow Pianta in, but a little surprised that Baby DK is getting moved off of the starting lineup and Paragoomba. Those the GM and the coach are staying confident in Paragoomba's abilities.
yeah, I'm just really curious to see how that plays out for them. I don't know, I don't know what's going to end up happening. With that lineup, or kind of what they've been seeing in practice, but I just know that from the fans there's been a little bit of concern as to what they're doing and why they're doing that. So like I said, we'll just have to wait till game time and see what can happen, because you never know, Paragoomba may come out and be the best player on that field tonight, but once again, we'll have to wait till game time to see. So, moving on to the Royals, I think, I think it's pretty obvious that probably one of the most influential players has been King K. Rule. I mean, home run machine. He's just been hitting home runs left and right, um, and I think that that's just been essential for them to win to win their games. Because defensively they've done well and they've produced a lot, but they've kind of moved pieces around defensively, because they know that they can go out and just score those runs and you know uh, just get those runs on the boards that they need. And I think a pretty big pivotal point for them was the part of the season where they ended up losing to the Slug and Heat by 11 runs, which was shocking to everyone. And I think that was the moment that they decided that okay, they need to turn this around and turn it on and just really go out and win the rest of the games, which is exactly what they were able to do. So the Royals, I would say King K. Rool has probably been one of their more influential players, if not the most influential player for their team.
I have to shout out King Boo. King Boo has actually the past few weeks has been hitting. I mean, a little bit under the radar. Another one of those unsung heroes of a team. King Boo has been absolutely lights out as both a pitcher as well as a pure hitter for the Royals. And I mean, it goes to show that how hard of a worker King Boo is to be able to keep producing underneath the shadow of the superhero King K. Rule, the best offensive player in this league. So being able to see that team really work together as they very heavily and very publicly went all in on this season to be able to go compete and take care of Fury.
Yeah, King Boo, like you said, he's been pretty quiet. Later in the season, definitely stepped it up and helped cover for any mishaps that they may have had on the offense there. Um, so moving on to the Emerald Havoc. I think unfortunately one of the most influential players. I mean, both in a good way and negative way, I would say is the Blue Critter. In the good way that I mean, he has the most outs in the league. He held down that infield, really keeping them in games whenever they needed to. But on the flip side, he's also made some critical errors at moments that you really wish that he wouldn't. So 8 errors on the season, the most in the league by far, and I think that some of those errors led to some pretty tough losses for the Emerald Havoc, and ultimately probably shaped how their season went this year. Coming out and winning the first game, but then just struggling to keep games close later in the season. So I think Blue Critter definitely one of the more strong players, as everyone knows, but also has his flaws, and unfortunately, those flaws just couldn't be managed enough to win the games.
Yeah. That'll move us to Mushroom Cloud, where you have the Dog of the Year award winner in Abe the Red Knee really being able to change a team's fate, just attempts to change the team's fate all on his own. And it's tough to see because Mushroom Cloud completely blew up their season and completely changed their entire lineup, and they were better for it. Where they played Fury 2-1 in the closest game Fury played all season, and like that's something to be said to hold Fury down to 5 runs and put 4 on Fury, nearly winning the game, coming down to the last out.
Yeah, Mushroom Cloud, they kind of turned it around somehow in this season. That in the sense that they sold off, they got a bunch of picks, and like you said, somehow ended up with a team that ended up looking a lot better than the team that they drafted. So um,
I did want to
they,
shout out Abe. Abe actually led the team in RBIs with 8, which is 3 more than Peach, who was the captain of that team, and hit much better than Peach with a
wow,
472 average, which was, I believe, that's the most on the team. Second most, the most of all the players that played to all 10 games. So Abe
yeah,
truly getting it out of the mud for that team.
yeah, Abe really stepped up for that team even when things looked down. He really stepped up and showed them that he can play for them. So glad to see him doing well. Glad to see him holding it down for the Mies. Uh, you know, can't wait to see what he can do next season. Unfortunately, he's gonna have to wait a little while to get there, but excited to see what he can do, and looking forward to his off season. So
That'll bring us to, I believe, Fury is the last team that we're looking at right now. And I think there's a lot of players that have really shined on this roster. I think it's hard to look at anybody but the Bowser, who won MVP in week 2, and I believe MVP of the entire league. I mean, Bowser has absolutely shown on both sides of the ball, being the best pitcher as he wins the Rosie Baby Award as well, and being one of the better offensive players as well, being a candidate for the best offensive player. Just all around, Bowser has been a force, but I think it's also important to look at the pieces around him as well and credit them as well, the bros in the infield in particular, and Koopa Flag in the outfield. That the defense has allowed Bowser to be so successful. Where Bowser does lead the league in strikeouts, Bowser also has given up a lot of runs just by the nature of being pitching for so many innings. But I think he was really rewarded by having such a good defense behind him.
yeah, that's true. I think Bowser definitely one of the main reasons that Fury was as dominant as they were. Some shout outs can go to the Fire Bro and Hammer Bro in the infield, really helping to hold it down. Um, glad to see them, glad to see them working together as brothers. Sometimes there's a little bit of bickering between them and dugouts, but on the field they just know how to work together and use their abilities to their advantage. Um, but Bowser is, I mean, he's got to be the true MVP of that Fury team, just holding it down on the mound, striking people out all the time, and especially in key moments too, whenever they really needed that last out. I think that kind of completes all of our teams and a little bit about the season and uh, overall just the players that we thought were the most influential. So, um, Dawson, what else do you have for us, if anything?
I think that does it for me. I mean, we wanted to thank y'all for being such loyal viewers, being so present with us, and also just working hard to make sure that our around this room segments have gone so good. There's been a lot of chemistry, well, I apologize, a lot of drama, a lot of lack of chemistry actually from around the league as a lot of craziness ended up happening. But we really appreciate you sticking with us as we try to give you the most fair and unjudgmental and trying to keep you unbiased as we give you our coverage over the league this past season. And we really look forward to the postseason and what next season may bring. Is the teams, a lot of teams are going with a new look. It's going to be a refreshed league with potential changes coming up to format and what have you. So, but overall, just wanted to thank our viewers for sticking with us this long and look forward to seeing who's going to be ultimately crowned champion.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting postseason for sure. Um, can't wait to see what matchups we have, and especially once we start moving into those series games, I think we'll get some exciting series out of those. So can't wait to see what we have in store for us. But as of this around this shroom session, I believe that that's all we have. So I'm Nathan,
I'm Dawson.
and this has been around the shroom.